and then the response is trumpeted as if there's something magical about it, when in fact what's happened is a whole statistical tap dance routine that violates good science. However, on the basis of that kind of phony trial, the drug can be marketed.
Keep in mind that when a drug is tested in the clinical trials, it's only a very short period of time. The final phase of testing can be anywhere from 5 to 6 weeks.
The longest of those studies was 8 weeks. The shortest was 4 weeks. So these are not long-term studies. I think most physicians and most people taking the drugs assume they're long-term, 1 year, 2 years, 3 year studies. They're not. They're very, very short studies.
I find it pretty outrageous that we can base a multi-billion-dollar industry on a few 6 or 8 week clinical trials where antidepressant medications beat a sugar pill by a few percentage points.
C'est sur la base de ces recherches tendancieuses que des psychotropes aux effets secondaires potentiellement mortels sont régulièrement approuvés sans restriction par la FDA. Comment cela est-il possible? Les psychotropes rapportent beaucoup d'argent et les comités d'approbation au sein de la FDA sont contrôlés par des individus qui retirent un profit de ces approbations.
The FDA panels that evaluate these drugs are largely psychiatrists. All of a sudden you discover there are 20 different pharmaceutical companies paying them, either grants or honorary or some other way. They're getting paid by the pharmaceutical industry.
If you have a psychiatrist who works at the FDA, he could also be being paid by industry. He might sit on industry panels or discussions or get paid to be a speaker. What I found in working with physicians at the FDA was that they could have dual positions. They could sit on an industry board. They could be influenced by industry.
If you've got 10 FDA scientists or 10 committee members, it's just a matter of 6 saying yes, the drug is safe, 4 saying no. And in almost every single case, those 6 saying that the drug is safe and effective always have pharmaceutical ties. They're getting paid, they're getting funded, somehow or another.
Have you been diagnosed with depression and struggle with sadness, trouble sleeping, anxiety, or low energy? Ask your doctor about Effexor XR.
Une fois la phase 3 approuvée, comme on pouvait s'y attendre, une campagne de marketing acharnée commence. Mais si les psychiatres ont déjà commencé à promouvoir et à prescrire ces médicaments dans le monde entier, il reste néanmoins une phase de plus, la phase 4.
What phase 4 clinical trials are is when they've actually gotten the drug approved and then they get it into the general population, so that we finally find out what it does when it hits ethnic populations, women, children.
Then we see who dies, who has seizures, who has deformed children, who has epilepsy, who has diseases downstream, whose heart stops.
The public is the clinical trial. That's where we find out the problems with these drugs.
This is an experimental stage, and it's so much so that one consumer protection group has advised patients that they refuse a prescription for any drug that hasn't already been on the market for 7 years.
So if you're taking a drug that's only been out for a year or 2 or 3, you are a guinea pig.
Mais l'expérimentation ne s'arrête pas là. Utilisant le manuel diagnostique et statistique des troubles mentaux et ces troubles inventés pour faire d'autres tests, les psychiatres vont accroître leurs profits en ciblant les personnes les plus inoffensives.
If they test their drugs on children, then they get a 6-month extension on their exclusivity period or patent period.
Ce centre psychiatrique de recherche sur les psychotropes situé au Texas utilise des annonces pour inciter des enfants à se porter volontaires. Une fois qu'ils sont dans le centre, les artifices les plus élémentaires sont utilisés pour les attirer davantage.
This is where they're going to be playing. We have Game Boys, we have Xbox, we have 5 TVs.
They come in here and they help themselves to crackers, cookies, free candy, free crackers.
Everything is paid for. You don't pay for anything.
Mais ces privilèges ne sont que des pièges pour persuader ces enfants d'avaler des psychotropes puissants connus pour provoquer le suicide et la violence chez des enfants de leur âge.
These are drugs that would cost maybe several $100s a month in a pharmacy. They actually are getting them free in research.
We love children, and We just love children because they're our future.
By conducting those tests on children, they get a financial incentive that's worth over $1 billion. Those are the facts. You make of them what you will.
En raison des sommes d'argent mises en jeu, les expérimentations de psychotropes sur les enfants sont malheureusement de plus en plus nombreuses. 323 protocoles de recherche ont été conclus ou sont en cours, dont un test effectué en 2003 sur des adolescentes pour traiter les troubles de dysphorie prémenstruelle.
Those drugs which are barely more effective than placebos often have huge side effects which are dangerous and even deadly to people.
Families don't know the risk. If they actually were aware of the risk and believed it, no one would take that risk.
The psychiatrist would never, she didn't say one word to me about what was going to be the effects of the drugs.
No side effects listed, no, well, let's sit down, we have to talk about this. At that point in time, he said, well, this doesn't have that type of reaction on any children, you know, that it's very safe.
If he had told me then what I know now about it, I never would have taken it.
She said, oh, Beth must have been on Paxil. That's the only way she would kill herself. And I said, well, what is this? How do people know this? I didn't know anybody would know something like that. And we went on the internet, and all of a sudden you find out it's not uncommon. But it's not uncommon for people to become psychotic on these drugs.
We're entitled to know the truth before we give a mind-altering drug to our children, our wife, our mother, our father, ourselves.
We don't really know what they're doing. That's what scares me. It's all made up theory. There are no facts about what these drugs really do. And if someone said, well, we don't know what this is going to do to you, good or bad, would you take that medication?
Now that is not the practice of medicine. That's the practice of marketing. And this practice of marketing is taking lives. And the poor patient doesn't even know it.
Mais dans le domaine des tests et du marketing des psychotropes, l'argent passe avant la sécurité. Les 10 psychotropes les plus souvent prescrits rapportent plus de 26,5 milliards de dollars par an. Plus du double de l'argent fabriqué est mis en circulation chaque année par la Banque centrale des États-Unis. Mais pour pouvoir encaisser autant d'argent, les psychiatres doivent d'abord convaincre le segment de marché le plus important de tous, celui des prescripteurs de médicaments.